Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
First tonight, it's been a tragic start to the long weekend on our roads. An international tourist is dead and others are in hospital after a horror crash in the state's central north. For more, we're joined by reporter Annie Green. And Annie, a van crashed near Powattina.
It did, Kim. A Toyota rental vehicle has left the road and rolled, killing a 21-year-old woman. The crash happened this afternoon just south of the Powattina lookout. 3 other passengers have been taken to hospital with what's believed to be non-life-threatening injuries. Investigators are still at the scene with the road from the village to Powattina intake closed. It's believed the group of tourists...
It's a single vehicle crash. We don't believe there's another vehicle involved, and for reasons unknown, that van has left the road whilst travelling down Powattina Hill.
It's believed the group of tourists travelling around Tasmania, but police haven't yet been able to contact the young woman's next of kin. It's a grim start to the long weekend as police warn for drivers to take extra care. Kim?
A coalition of independent and minor party candidates have signed their support for a ban on native forest logging, saying 7 in 10 Australians want it to happen.
It's certainly an issue in the electorate of Clark. We are being bombarded by people who are very concerned about their oceans, their forests and all things environmental.
Both Labor and Liberal parties have promised to extend contracts to 2040. Tasmania is set to swelter through the long weekend, with temperatures expected to reach the mid-30s in some areas. The hot weather has authorities on edge, warning they'll be out in force looking to avoid any disasters.
It's a story authorities don't want repeated this weekend. An out-of-control bushfire at Ravenswood putting a community at risk.
Crews worked tirelessly through the night and really hard working to strengthen our containment lines.
The deliberately lit blaze now under control, but the Tasmania Fire Service isn't breathing a sigh of relief just yet, with high temperatures and strong winds threatening to prove difficult this weekend.
It's difficult. If fire starts in the landscape, we are going to struggle to keep it under control. Be ready and practice that bushfire plan.
Fire permits are being suspended in the state's south from 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, as some regions are tipped to exceed 35 degrees. The Bureau of Meteorology forecasting the hot conditions to sweep statewide.
The heat's going to persist right throughout the long weekend. The extra hot Saturday we're going to experience is going to lead to a very hot night, Saturday night into Sunday.
Hobart on track to break an overnight March record.
The minimum temperature in Hobart's expected to be 21 degrees.
With temperatures set to soar. Victoria Risto, 7 Tasmania News.
The guided missile destroyer HMAS Hobart has returned to its namesake city ahead of a major street celebration tomorrow. Hobart's waterfront set to play host to a Navy March, a tradition set to draw major crowds.
Docking into its resting place for the next few days. Crew on board the HMAS Hobart are set to commemorate a long-standing tradition.
Freedom of entries don't come along very quickly, and it's definitely a milestone event for most of the crew.
Following a week at sea, 200 crew members will parade through the city for a Freedom of Entry March. An event which dates back to medieval times when ships needed permission to enter towns and provide food and arms.
It's very, very exciting to be a part of it and experience it.
This International Women's Day, Ship Commander Tina is calling for more women to jump on board, with just 28% of the crew women.
45% of our officers are females, living and breathing those leadership roles. So to have capable women in leadership roles is important because it's a see what you can do role.
It's intense, high highs and low lows, but I must say the highs definitely dominate the lows.
All crew set to form part of tomorrow's festivities seen across the country. The public's welcome to head down and check out tomorrow's ceremony, with the parade to move along the Hobart waterfront and finish here at Parliament Lawns. But it's a short trip to our island state for the HMAS Hobart. The ship headed back out to sea next week to conduct more domestic exercises before an Easter break. Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmania News.
Bluey and Bingo are at the centre of Tasmanian controversy after Tas Racing advertised the cartoon characters will be at its Good Friday Greyhound meet for a family event with face painting and balloons. Independent member for Clark, Christy Johnston, says it's a potential breach of the Responsible Gambling Code of Practice. She's also written to the show's creators about her disgust.
It is encouraging children to attend what is a gambling event and to attend an event which we know there will be animals harmed and potentially killed on track.
The Tasmanian Trotting Club, which organised the event, says Good Friday has always been promoted as a family day by the racing clubs and any perceived copyright issues have been resolved. The flurry of housing election promises has continued, with Rebecca White promising measures to boost apartment supply and Jeremy Rockcliffe cutting land tax. Just over 2 weeks out from polling day, housing is firming as a key issue.
On the tools, in hope of winning votes, the Liberals are offering to slash land tax.
Putting downward pressure on bills, and indeed that flows through to more builds and indeed downward pressure for renters as well.
Raising the tax-free threshold from $100 to $125,000, a $110 saving for those with an investment property or shack, and wiping clean the bill of $4,500.
The Tasmanian people can be left in no doubt that we will use every lever at our disposal to increase the supply of houses in the market.
After 10 years of Liberal government, we have the worst housing crisis that Tasmania's ever seen.
Labor's pledging to support the High-Vis Army initiative and also to buy into new apartment blocks.
So making it easier, particularly for first home buyers, to get in, and apartment living is the way to do that with a lower price point.
And create a planning dashboard to track local council approvals.
We'll reward those councils with incentives when we can see that they are actually providing more pathways for houses to be built in Tasmania.
The Liberals concern that scheme could corrupt decision-making. Housing supply has been a focus in recent days. The state's peak body wants affordable housing to be the target, as well as crisis service support.
We've got 38 people a day being turned away from services. We've had a 45% of increase of homelessness since the last census, and we know 50% for women.
But a Labor open letter declaring no MPs are being investigated by the Integrity Commission has caused a stir. The Integrity Commission itself said in a statement it doesn't condone its work being politicised. The Liberals have called for Rebecca White to apologise, saying this is a grubby stunt. But Labor's doubled down, saying Jeremy Rockcliffe's still avoiding the question of whether any of his MPs are under the microscope. Meanwhile, the Greens want to go back to the drawing board on legislation to ban conversion practices.
It provides a mechanism for people to legitimately continue to practice conversions in Tasmania.
Labor agrees. The Premier's backing his bill as calls from survivors continue.
I don't want anyone else to have to experience what I've been through.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
A long-standing and proudly Tasmanian retail business is being taken over by an interstate company. Bejans sold to BSR Group, which operates Better Electrical. The Scottsdale site is a casualty set to close, while remaining stores will stay open under new ownership.
It's been a northeast institution for decades, but it will soon close. Bejans conceding that the economic downturn was instrumental in its decision to shut its Scottsdale store. In the small rural community, there was a sense of sadness.
Normally buy all our ovens and electrical appliances for all the rentals. I've also purchased all of my household goods from there. So yeah, we'll definitely miss them.
In a statement, the company says it was a difficult move, with the Scottsdale branch not profitable for a number of years, but admitted it had continued to trade for the good of the community. 2 full-time employees will be stood down. Businesses in Scottsdale have voiced concern that Bejans shutting down here could result in local shopping elsewhere and triggering more retail closure. A local shoe shop owner and former president of the North East Tasmania Chamber of Commerce is one of those worried.
When people have to go to Launceston or further afield to get their electrical goods, they'll take their dollar with them into the other stores. So that is actually going to impact our business community quite significantly.
Beechant's Launceston, along with stores in Devonport and Ulverston, won't close, but will be taken over by BSR Group from July, adding to a number of Tasmanian-based companies being swallowed up by larger conglomerates. Melinda Ogden, 7 Tasmania News.
The Liberals have promised nearly $5 million for a cutting-edge endometriosis surgical robot to be located at the Launceston General Hospital. If re-elected, the party would also extend prescriptions for oral contraception to help women access 2 years with one script. Labor's offering $700,000 for an endometriosis and pelvic pain centre, also in the north. An elderly Devonport man is lacing up for a long challenge, walking more than 50 trails in less than 50 days. Raising money for cancer, Brian Stace is doing it in memory of his wife who succumbed to the disease last year.
Married for more than 5 decades, Brian and Helen Stace were inseparable before Helen passed away from ovarian cancer in June.
When she was really suffering from chemo, she would still get out of bed and walk up the street as far as she could that day, walk a bit further the next day.
Helen and her passion for pounding the pavement survived by Brian, the 77-year-old undertaking more than 50 walks in less than 50 days starting tomorrow. Spanning from 30 minutes to 5 hours, the majority of the treks were Helen's favourites.
One of which is round the Don River in Devonport. She would do that almost every night.
Brian will walk here to Mount Nelson's signal station tomorrow. The first walk Helen did after receiving chemotherapy. It's hoped his challenge will raise awareness about the benefits of exercise for people with health conditions.
Her relative fitness enabled her to enjoy her life during that period.
A healthy and happy lifestyle through exercise and a healthy diet is vital in helping people impacted by cancer and also preventing cancer.
Brian also collecting funds for the Cancer Council.
Almost 10 Tasmanians a day are diagnosed with cancer.
Nearly $24,000 already raised before Brian's journey has even begun. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
A hidden landscape has taken top honours at this year's Glover Prize. Tasmanian artist Nicholas Blowers beating out 739 other entries with his painting called Lake Bed. The Hobart-based artist recreating the bottom of Lake Gordon after its water level dropped by 45 metres.
It's quite a gritty landscape. It's a particular type of brutal beauty that I'm always drawn to.
This year's paintings following a more realistic trend, according to the exhibition's curator.
I think it's the artist's experience of being with the landscape.
The Glover Prize opens to the public tomorrow. Local artists have gathered at Launceston's QV Mag celebrating their artistic contributions this International Women's Day. Today's event also an opportunity for budding earth-dying artists to reflect on their final creations following a series of tailored workshops.
I think it's really important that we share our skills and our knowledge, and then people take it and do with it what they want to do.
QV Mag hopes the art lessons will inspire more participants to try different forms of art.
The Wildcats fans might be the Jackies' toughest hurdle in tonight's Blockbuster SemiFinal showdown. In a good sign for Tassie, Marcus Lee was on deck for a final shoot-around at RAC Arena this afternoon. A win on the road means the chance to book a spot in the grand final at MyState Bank Arena next week. But first, they'll need to overcome a fiery Perth crowd.
Staying steady, staying level-headed, going to be something we're looking for from our leaders, and getting after these guys and trying to silence this crowd is going to be a big part of tonight.
Matthew Wade's made a big call to prioritise the Tigers' Sheffield Shield campaign over his Indian Premier League commitments. It's a huge boost to Tasmania's chances of claiming the Shield, as Jeff Vaughan warns his men not to underestimate the South Australian bowlers. A final appearance in the bag. Next week's Shield match isn't a must-win for the Tigers, but with hosting rights on the line, a loss is out of the question. Even regular wooden spooners, the Redbacks, can be full of surprises.
They've got a wonderful bowling attack. They're going to be hard work in our conditions down here, and we'll have to play some good cricket through the next week.
A huge plus for Tassie is Matthew Wade prioritising state duties rather than fly to India. He'll be available until the final.
He's spoken with his IPL franchise and they're happy to allow him to stay here.
Bo Webster is another huge tick in the Tigers' favour, and it seems the team's admiration for him can't be overstated.
He's been a huge reason as to why we're sitting here where we are, and yeah, certainly at times he's almost put us on his back and taken us with him.
Riley Meredith will be rested in favour of retiring bowler Sam Rainbird. Mitch Owen and Billy Stanlake are still ruled out through injury, and Mac Wright won't be seen for a while, undergoing surgery for an ACL. But none of that worries the upbeat skipper.
Yeah, it does show the depth that we have, I guess, within this group, and depth that we never really got to see over sort of the last few years. And I couldn't be more proud of how the guys have come out and performed.
This weekend's Women's Premier League Cricket Grand Final will have a tinge of the Tigers. Both North Hobart and Newtown welcoming members of the state's victorious WNCL side back for the match. Newtown gained Lizelle Lee and Kelly Wilson, while Elise Villani, Nicola Carey and Claire Scott line up for the Demons.
They are 3-time WNCL champions, so just knowing what to do in a final is probably really good to have them on our side.
You're captain?
Yes.
We get around them and asking them a lot of questions, especially Lizelle playing around the world.
A win for the Demons would see them achieve the first grade T20 Cup double. Scoring an A-League side is a priority for Football Tasmania, again knocking back a national second division bid featuring South Hobart. But they are supporting an expansion of the women's game as the state's clubs come together for the NPL season launch.
Come September, only one team per league will touch these trophies again. All NPL and WSL teams aiming to hit that jackpot at a season launch at Rest Point Casino.
Yeah, very excited to be a part of it this year.
It'll be good to get the season off and running, and I'm looking forward to getting around the grounds.
Events off the field also set to be as interesting to watch. Tasmania's A-League ambitions front and centre in 2024.
We want one Tasmanian team that fits every club and is for the community.
The CEO also reiterating Football Tasmania won't support an audacious bid to have our state represented in the National Second Division by a consortium featuring South Hobart.
It's a South Hobart bid, it's a club bid, it's not a Tasmanian bid. We wish them well, but we won't go with government and seek funding for their bid.
On-field reigning NPL champions Devonport are seeking a 7th title in 9 years. Despite some personnel changes, their coach has fired an early warning shot.
The nucleus is still the same, so we're still able to build on the core principles we've set in.
South Hobart also looking to go back-to-back in the WSL.
Certainly is the focus of ours, that's what we want to do. Girls are really, really up for it. The intensity in training has been fantastic.
This season a historic one for the Women's League, following on from last year's World Cup. Glenorchy and Riverside making their debuts in the big league.
We're a very young side at the moment, so it's going to be cool seeing us develop, but as I said, no real expectations yet, but hopefully we can get a couple of wins.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Launceston's Adam Garwood has found a new team in Dream Racing Australia, taking over the Camaro Trans Am racer for Race Tasmania at Symmons Plains. Garwood's had a crack at most race formats, most recently the touring cars at Bathurst a fortnight ago. One of the major differences between the two cars is having the steering wheels on opposite sides.
Weird, but sort of get used to it and forget about it. It's just got to make sure no one's on sort of your right-hand side there, but no, it's good, and especially Symmons Plains, if all left-hand turns, it helps it out a bit.
Garwood drove a Dodge Challenger at Symmons Plains last year. North West Coast motorcyclist Kiren Bacon is in Roma, 500 kilometres west of Brisbane tonight, ahead of the Australian Off-Road Championships first round. It's a comeback of sorts after having a stranglehold on the E1 category in 2022. A broken femur ruled him out for most of last year.
The worst thing you don't want to talk about motorbikes. I ended up managing to do the last few rounds, and I was feeling pretty good, and I feel like I still had a little bit left, back to 100% now, and we're ready.
Kiren's been Australia's fastest enduro rider for the last 2 seasons.
Good evening. Hope you've had a great Friday. Fine weather right around the state again today. Hobart 21, Launceston 27, Devonport and Burnie 23. Bushy Park's 28 was the warmest after Butler's Gorge recorded the low of 1. Smithton, Friendly Beaches, Grove and Flinders Island all 25. King Island and Strawn 24. St Helens 23 and Lowhead 22. No rain again, as I mentioned today, as fine clear skies were reported right over the state. A large mass of cloud covers an area from Western Australia across to Queensland. Thunderstorms continued over the tropics. Tomorrow, we have a hot northerly flow heading our way, driven by the high pressure system over the Tasman Sea. A cold front moves over the Bight. East-nor'east winds as strong as 20 to 30 knots and tending northwesterly in the afternoon. We do have a strong wind warning. That's from St Helens around to Sandy Cape. Forecast for tomorrow, Hobart, morning cloud, then a sunny afternoon, 14 to 34 the temperature range, 31 the high for Medina and Oatlands, fine and partly cloudy. Launceston, bit of cloud about, 31 the top, 25 for Devonport, partly cloudy for Lyowini, a high of 23 degrees. Burnie expecting 23 as well, Strawn 30, a sunny day in the west, and 27 for Marrawar. And for the eastern regions, 27 for St Helens, Swansea 30, a top of 32 on the way for Orford. Very warm across the northeast on Sunday as a few light showers develop over the west and possibly the southeast. A shower or two for Hobart and Strawn, but fine partly cloudy weather elsewhere on Monday, and into Tuesday a few more light showers into the picture. 27 in Perth tomorrow and sunny, a top of 40 in Adelaide, 39 in Melbourne, sunny and warm weather also in Canberra and Sydney, but a shower and 29 in Brisbane. A little cloud about Hobart, 18 at the moment, 23 in Launceston, partly cloudy in Devonport and 20, and Kimmer high fire danger for most of the state tomorrow, and the Tas Alerts website will have some updates if you'd like to look at that.
Could be warm, could be dangerous. Thank you very much, Murph, and that is all your news for now. We'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Good night.